on the newspaper page. And love and tradition of the grand design, some people say, is even harder to find. Well, then there must be some magic clue inside these gentle walls. 'Cause all I see is a tower of dreams, real love bursting out of every scene. Days gone by, it's the bigger love of the family.
To the Hot Mic Podcast. Nate the Barbarian with you, and we got our Jedi Knight back with us. Fanon Rucker, how you doing, sir?
Can you hear Fanon? I am feeling the force, and I am so pleased to be back.
Hey, listen, look at the cover. I've got you in full.
Yeah. I got an objection. That is the worst picture of me, and I granted it's hard to find a good one. But that looks, you got me looking like Trump after he was indicted. Now it's one thing.
Well, Phil, I look older than Yoda.
It's one thing if my words undermine me, but let's at least get us off on the right foot. That is the worst picture of me I can ever imagine. And you did it intentionally. I know you did. So I'm insisting that you find, whoever draws those things, I'll send you a picture of when I was like 20 or 30 years younger if you want one that had hair, something like that.
If you want to use that, Phil, we can use it. Hey, don't blame me, blame AI.
I make enough enemies as it is without showing that picture.
AI can only work with what they're given. So don't blame me. Now listen, my brother in this endeavor, Kevin Aldridge, is fresh off an appearance on the Lincoln Ware Show. Just got off the phone with him. He's on his way over, and he should be joining us shortly. But to Tarris, good to see you, Tarris.
Yeah, good to be here. I'm glad to be here today with the esteemed panel.
And sexy Phil Hemlich, who just let me have it.
Deservedly so.
Listen, one more time, I want to remind people, we're doing something special for Halloween. You don't want to miss it. Make sure you're with us this Friday for a Halloween. Edition of the Hot Mic Podcast on Friday. So same channel or channels, depending on where you're looking or where you view us, and you are welcome. Sierra writes, welcome back, Fanon. Absolutely. Absolutely. Cruther writes, white dude has no color. No color? Yeah, I see color. You know what? You're just making it worse for me and Phil.
I kind of sense that guy on some level is sticking up for me.
It might be sticking up for you. I don't know if
I've ever been called a white dude before, but I want to thank you, sir, for your comments, and hopefully it'll have some influence on our host.
Absolutely. The Sierra writes, hello, checking in from Boston. Hey, good to see you, Sierra. And we need to pick up this debate, Canon versus Sony. I've heard great things about Canon and their color profiles, but I've never used it. Regina, that's shop talk between creators and cameras. Regina writes, good afternoon, everyone. Good to see you. Hey, Jerome writes, hello, 513. Hey, Jerome. Hey, Brenda, good to see you as always. And Shahira, my bad. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Checking in from Bond Hill, Looking forward to the convo today. Okay, I used to live in Bond Hill. Cruther writes, good afternoon, everyone. Good to see you. Y'all messed up having my pops the same color as Phil on the thumbnail.
Oh, that's my son, Chris.
Is that your son? Okay,
my son, Christian. We got the hot mic podcast playing in the barbershop on the other side over here.
So. Okay, cool. Let me double check here, see if he's right. No.
Me and Phil about the same color.
Tarris is clearly just a couple shades darker. And then don't blame me, it's all AI.
Now, wait a second. If somebody's comparing Tarris to me, I think that's a very unkind thing to say about Tarris. I'll stick up for him on this.
There
I appreciate that
one. Carolyn writes, hello. Hey, good to see you, Carolyn. And Brandy, good to see everybody. Thank you for being here. You could be anywhere in the World Wide Web. You taking a couple minutes to be with us. I really appreciate it. Nat writes, good afternoon, good Tuesday, Nate and crew, if I can read correctly. Someone's calling me. Let me see. Kamiki writes, hey, Judge. Good to see you. Pamela writes, good afternoon, Nathan and guest panelists. Good to see everybody. And Andre Ewing, one of our crew members, he writes, what's up, Hot Mic family? Good to see you, Fanon. Absolutely. Terry writes, good afternoon. Well, let's just jump straight into it. You know, there's been some movement around the story about the police chief. Now some of the information is coming about who's going to be investigating. It'll be a law firm. They're going to be paid about $40,000 to do an investigation into the leadership, the ability of the current city police chief of Cincinnati to lead, among other things. This new development, does it change anything for you? What does it say to you about this whole ordeal, this whole thing? Or does it say nothing to you? It's the same deal you thought before. I mean, do the new details about the investigation reveal anything? If so, what?
Well, I don't know from my perspective whether or not it actually changes anything. I don't know that we know anything more. We're going to pay no more than $40,000. They expect to be done by December 31st. And here's what we're going to be looking at: whether or not there was adequate or appropriate leadership, if there were some things that were done appropriately or inappropriately. And I know it's been said before, and I think from a just a rational standpoint, what usually happens is there's an investigation and then there's an indictment. It's usually not the case that where charges come, and I'm talking in the criminal world, that the charges come before the investigation. Because when that happens, folks like me like it, because then we have good fodder for lawsuits when they ultimately charge first and then investigate afterwards.
I'll tell you something. I have never seen anything like this in my years on city council or in politics, in the sense that you understand it when you hire a law firm, like to determine if there's been some, I don't know, discrimination or something. But this is a legislative or an administrative decision. I mean, it's ridiculous. It sounds like somebody doesn't want to take responsibility and they want somebody else to come up with some reasons. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, they hired her. It's the city managers and to some extent the council member's job, but especially to decide if she's doing a good job or not. You don't hire a law firm to tell you if an employee is doing a good job. I mean, it's ridiculous. What are they going to do every time there's an issue with some city employee? Oh, let's hire this law firm to tell us. It's ridiculous. I mean, that's your job. Okay, if you're the city manager or the mayor, that is your job. You don't hire a law firm to tell you whether an employee is doing a good job.
From what I've seen, Cincinnati has a mayor council hybrid type of government. The city manager and the mayor kind of work together to where it gives them an ability from the outside looking in is to pass the buck back and forth to each other. So this firing happened at a time during the election. Looks like it was politically motivated. And then it gives opportunity for them to, if like this is not December 31st is when they should have it over. By then, the election will be done and over with. And what if they find out that they did not have just cause to fire her? Will she then get her job back and get to leave on a more honorable note? But I find it very interesting that the city of Cincinnati has because most municipalities have either a mayor council or a strong mayor type of government legislative system. This Cincinnati, I've seen FTAB say it's a hybrid of both. And when I hear hybrid of both being from somebody who sits on that situation to where I have to I have to listen to my city manager. I know my city manager runs my city. I know what the mayor does, and I know what my vote does. But if the city manager and the mayor can pass the buck back and forth to each other, it can lead to situations like this where no accountability has to be, and it is a lot on the burden of the taxpayers to go through things like this, where they have to pay outside lawyers. That's just my opinion looking at outside looking at it.
Yeah, Phil, all great points. I mean, Phil and Fanon kind of stole my thunder. I didn't mention this on the last show, but Fanon, that's exactly what I was thinking. It was like, so you're gonna sit her to the side and then do an investigation? An investigation into what? It's like you're looking for a problem to justify a move you've already made. And to Phil's point, you're her oversight. The city manager is the supervisor of the police chief. Why do you have to go to an outside law firm for them to tell you something that you're supposed to already know? But it goes back to a point I'm going to keep making, and I'm sure people are sick of it, but pressure busts pipes and creates diamonds. And I support the AFTAB administration. I thought they were doing a great job and still think they're doing a great job up to this point. But this pressure brought on by, all the pressure from the brawl and all the media fallout, it is seriously revealing some cracks in what they got going on down there. You got members of city council saying, we don't know what's going on. How is this good for the city of Cincinnati? I was taking my son to school, driving through Avondale. There's yard signs saying we support Chief Fiji. This is a self-inflicted wound. None of this, we should be talking about other things rather than what's happening with the police chief. It's just as a citizen who lives, works, pays taxes in Cincinnati, it's just not what I want to be talking about it and what I want to see right now. But to the audience, what do you think? What do you think? Like, to me, it feels like I said, it's like they're trying to find something where there's nothing, because if you had it, you just put it out there.
Phil, you want to take that one, Phil?
Well, I mean, I just think I think they're passing the buck. I mean, that's maybe I forget whether that Tarris or who said that. I mean, as we all just said, this is their job. I think where the election comes into play is because neither AFTAB or the council, whoever, they don't want to be the one responsibility who makes the call. If this wasn't an election year, I don't think there's any way they'd hire a law firm. Okay, they just deal with it, whether she's doing a good job or not doing a good job. It's just passing the buck.
And for what I've seen, to Nathan's point, the day after Chief DG got put on administrative leave, they had a rally for her on the west side. They had on the east side, and it was at a bar or something like that. And they had a fundraiser, and were passing out all those signs that you said you've seen. They were passing these signs out to hundreds of people, and hundreds of people that can gather in a situation like that can turn into thousands of people, which can turn into, by December 31st, a situation like the Hyde Park people who organize. So, I mean, but by then, AFTAB will be reelected, and it's business as usual. I wouldn't be surprised. I asked this 2 podcasts ago. I said, is there any possibility Chief Fiji can get her job back? And everybody said, no. I can foresee her being reinstated as chief and then exiting on her own terms, as a decorated 35-year chief, because like we said, chiefs don't last long in Cincinnati. You don't go out like that. And I don't believe it might be warranted for her to get let go this way. So therefore, that's why I believe she will be let back. She'll come back and then be able to leave on her own terms as a decorated servant of the public.
You could be. I don't see that happening. I think Kevin made this point. I agree. The point he made on the last show, which is, now that she's been treated like this, I think that her authority has been undermined. And why would you want to come back to this circus anyway? Right? I know I wouldn't. I'll take my money, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 700,000, and move on to the next jobs. I'm sure she'll find a job somewhere else in law enforcement. But here's what I don't get. I think most people will agree that AFTAB is going to win this election. So why does the election? If he's a shoe-in to win, how is the election informing any decisions they make about the police chief? Why make a big move like this when you're probably going to win anyway? Am I
I
wrong
can
about
tell.
that?
Let me tell you this. I mentioned this before. When I was in the prosecutor's office, and this was when Republicans couldn't lose in Hamilton County. Okay, I was shocked though at it, and I'm talking probably more prior to Joe Dieters because most of my term there was before him. But even in an environment where you couldn't lose, the elected prosecutor was so sensitive to any kind of publicity that would make him or her look bad, especially that they're weak on crime in any way, that it had a big influence. So I guess what I would say is I don't care even if AFTAB's hugely favored, whatever it is, politicians are always nervous about the next election.
And I understand there's almost a foregone conclusion. I hear people saying that this is about politics. I don't have the same perspective. First of all, let me say that I have no, I am very clear that city manager and Phil, you work with several. I work with several or against several, the way we want to talk in litigation on my cases against the city. But it's an incredibly difficult job. And what people do, they respond. And we see this with elected officials. We see this with appointed officials. They respond out of fear first, as opposed to respond out of contemplation. It's a tough job. And so, we understand that reaction. But I also, as I was saying, don't believe this is about politics. And the reason I say that is I have been around long enough. I was part when we had our disturbances back in 2001 and part of some city efforts. And I was actually in the mayor's office when the was on. And what I do know about this city is that there is a business committee that makes decisions, and they make hiring and firing decisions from behind the scenes. Judge William McLean, who was the first African-American law director of a major city, first Black judge in Hamilton County, he was a mentor and a friend of mine. When he became the solicitor in 1975, and he was telling me the story, that before he was able to be appointed, he had to go around to all the big law firms and to the businesses to meet the big boys. And they had to sign off and confirm his potential appointment before the city officials could actually do it. And I do know that when business folks, some of the purse strings being held, make big decisions or make those calls, that there are responses that we can expect are going to come. And I'm not sure that that's not what happened in this instance. I don't think it's about politics.
Interesting. Could be. The shadow government of Cincinnati, as some people say it. We got Kevin with us. What's up, Kevin?
Hey, what's up, everybody? Good to see you, Fanon. Brother, glad to see you, man. Good to see you. Good to see everybody. Not that it's not good to see Tarris and Phil.
We understand. We understand. I don't
Phil. Yeah. I mean, Tarris. Good to see Phil.
Yeah.
I mean, man, what do you want me to say, man?
But these new details, man. What do you think about them? I mean, the crew has shared their thoughts. I mean, Fanon said something that sticks out to me. He said it's like, aren't you supposed to do the investigation before you let somebody go or you reprimand them? It seems to be a big backwards. And then Phil made the point that why are you asking an outside law firm to do your job? I mean, how do they know? How do they have oversight over the police chief when a city manager is supposed to have oversight over the police chief? I've got a caption here from the Inquirer, just giving people the details, some of the details. So here's what they're going to be investigating. Has Police Chief Thigi been an effective leader and manager of the department, including personnel and resources? Has she been a leader within the context of city government, including by furthering the broader goals and objectives of the city administration? Has she committed any infraction or policy violation while serving as police chief? And has she disregarded best practices in the running of CPD to the detriment of public safety and crime prevention? Now, that's a wide net. To me, it's almost impossible for them to not come back and say she violated one of those things because it's just so open and broad. But what's your take?
Nathan, my first reaction when I read that was, I'm like, isn't this stuff that would show up in her annual evaluation? I mean, that was sort of my first thought when I read that, is like, doesn't the police chief, and I don't know. I mean, I don't know what that process is, sadly, what the process is, but on my job, I get an evaluation every year. I get sat down at some point at the end of the year, and I get a review of my job performance. You know, my boss sits down, he tells me what I did well, what I need to get better at, and we go over the game plan on what I need to do to improve. That's standard every year. We got to pay a law firm $40,000 to do something that HR in the city or the city manager should have been doing in the first place. Like, it makes me want to, and I don't know if we're already doing this over here at the Inquirer, but it makes me want to request her personnel file to see what her performance evaluations have been, because these are the types of questions that, if there are issues in there, you would think would show up in somebody's performance evaluation. I think it's ridiculous that you have to pay a law firm $40,000 to evaluate the police chief. I thought that's what the city manager and the human resources was for in the city. So that was my first thought when I looked at that. I'm like, you know, you should have the answers to these questions like already internally, and be able to make a decision off of that. So that's what
I think they do know they have the answers. And I think I'm suspect that in one way or another, it's been communicated to that law firm that kind of this is where we want to end up.
I mean, it definitely seems like you're not paying a law firm $40,000 to come back with any results but those that confirm the conclusion that you already want to get. You know, and I'm not throwing shade on the legal profession, but I'm just saying, like, it to me, it strains credibility that you think this law firm is going to come back with any other conclusion other than, and to your point, Nathan, with the wide net cast, that they're going to come back with any other conclusion other than what the city wants in terms of how they want to resolve this situation.
Yeah, I can see it now. They'll come out with a full report, and they'll say that one day she tried to make a basket with a wad of paper and she missed, and she didn't go back and pick it up. And that's against city policy when it comes to loitering and littering. So we got to let you go. I mean, it's going to be yabba dabba doo. We don't want you, period. And that's just the world that we live in. And to me, it's so transparently obvious that it makes the administration look bad. Like, everybody in the city is like, this is some blah, 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 blah. We can see it. And I'm like, why would you make a move like this? I mean, maybe Fanon said it right. You said it best. You know, maybe there's some other forces that, you know, let their opinion be heard. And so that's what it's all about. But it just looks bad. There's no redemption in this at all. As I'm sitting here, like, how does this make you look good in any way? But we haven't had any high profile shootings, so maybe they were right.
Isn't it amazing how the shootings kind of dried up real quick? I'm not you know me, I'm not a conspiracy dude. I ain't going down that. But I will say this: the cash register just keeps ringing up. I mean, here, I don't know if you saw the Inquirer reporting, but the chief makes $3,900 a week. She makes more in a week than most Cincinnati taxpayers make in a month, and she's getting that to sit at home to not do her job for the next 2 months. And I just think that, again, when you talk about taxpayer waste, you got $40,000 going to this law firm, you got $3,900 a week, going to a police chief who's not doing the job. I mean, it's like the cash register, the receipts just keeps getting longer. And, taxpayers are, again, paying the price for the city's inability to, get a handle on this thing.
Yeah. And I read that that there was a quote from somebody on city council who was like, well, I don't even know how they're doing this. Like, this $40,000, where's this money coming from? I don't remember who the quote was attributed to.
Seth Walsh.
Seth Walsh, right. Okay. Yep. And he's like, where are they getting this money? I'm like, it's just bad. Where's the win? Where is the win for the AvTab administration and how they dealt with this?
The money's coming from the same place they found that $5.2 million for the crime package. There's this mysterious fund out there that apparently even council people don't even know about, that, you could just pull money out of.
I heard they cut it. Didn't they cut it from Iris Rowley's salary, or am I wrong? I thought I heard that.
See, there you go, Phil.
Mess.
Phil is like the guy that the neighbor got a pit bull and he's just intent on sticking his hand through that little hole in the fence. He's not going to be satisfied till he get his hand bit off.
Oh,
And
come
and
on,
Phil, I just don't know.
kidding.
I don't know
Come
why
on.
you do it.
Right, he on his own too. You're on your own. So if you get your hand bit, you get your hand bit. That's all on you. Hey Tracy, good to see you. Wish you a speedy recovery. Good to see you. Hey Linda, and Sister Iris is in the house, so she heard all of that hate.
Uh-oh.
All those barbs you throwing that way. She heard it. There it is. You're on your own. But let's move on. Let's talk about Blexit. This is sure that Tarris will love this topic. Let me highlight Tarris. He'll love this topic right here.
There we go.
So I'm not sure if you guys are aware of it, but people have been talking about it. Blexit. They've got it's this whole thing, and Tarris can describe it probably better than me. But it's this whole thing where they're trying to get black people to leave the Democrat Party, the Democrat plantation, and perhaps go to the Republican Party. And after Charlie Kirk's assassination, they decided that they were going to start going to HBCU. So over the last couple of weeks, they've been going to HBCUs, and it's not been good. In some cases, they've been shut down. In other cases, they were allowed to do their thing. Educate to liberate. If you're watching and not just listening, you can see one of their flyers. And some people are saying, why are you coming to HBUs with this nonsense? Other people,
who are these guys? I've never heard of this. Who are these guys?
Yeah, they're black conservatives.
Who are they being funded by?
That's a really good question. I think they're connected to Turning Point USA, but probably some big billionaires behind them as well. And they're trying to turn black people, young black people, on HBCUs against the Democrat Party, or maybe they open their minds to other political horizons. And what do you think about this? Is this just pretty much what you should expect on a college campus, or is this a threat? Are you alarmed? What do you think, crew?
Yeah,
Tarris,
let me give you a backstory on Blexit. It started that's when I first got involved with Blexit in 2018, and it was it was Candace Owens' leg of Turning Point, and Candace Owens wanted to take people away from the Democratic plantation. This is from 2018. So from 2018 to where we are in 2025 now, there's been a complete hijack and grift of the Blexit movement. The Blexit movement started off, like any other movement, like any other movement, Black Lives Matter, you name it. It started off as a grassroots movement, and Candace wanted her own thing when she was teaming up with Charlie Kirk. So Candace Owens, she formed the Blexit movement, and it was moving great. Fast forward to Charlie Kirk being assassinated, or whatever happened with Charlie Kirk. The Turning Point and who's funding them? Who do you think, Phil? Your people. But
your people?
Are you talking about Israelis? You talking about white people? Could you specify who might, if you don't mind, for our audience?
Pro Israel people are pro the same people who were funding Turning Point, Charlie Kirk, and all those billionaires who were funding him and were funding him. Blexit is nothing but an arm off of it. Fast forward to 2028, I'll summarize. From 2018 to 2025, the movement has been hijacked by a bunch of grifters. Out of all those pictures that I saw that you put up there, there's maybe one good, genuine person up there, Topher dude. But he's been compromised by that. I won't call it, but that money, the same money that the Officer Tatum, and that's why you see Candace Owens doing her thing and completely deviating away from Turning Point, Blexit, and doing her own thing, because they've compromised all the stuff that they had. They've eliminated Charlie Kirk, and now they're taking this to the HBC. And is debate good? Yeah, debate is good. So they'll tell you, but I don't believe that their intentions are pure. Intentions are grifting. These are intentions to antagonize. These are not intentions to come on these campus and heal and have good, healthy debate. These are and I'm talking as a Black Republican. They're going to these campuses to to invoke more controversy. If this really about bringing Black people over, and I'll end here. With so much racism going on inside the Republican Party, there needs to be some internal fixing within the Republican Party as far as racism goes before we go try to open up our net to try to pull more Black people in. I'll leave it there.
Let me play a little bit of clip from Candace Owens. Everybody loves her. Check this out.
In several states.
Black Americans are waking up. They're realizing that they've been sleeping at the wheel. And really what I'm saying is just to embrace your futures. You can be in the driving seat of your future.
Yeah, we can be in the driver's seat of our own futures. If we,
I'll just say this: the thing that I don't get about so-called Black Republicans is this, and nobody has yet to offer this answer to me. Is if I'm gonna leave, it's like a job. Okay, I'm not one of them people that's gonna quit my job, not have another job lined up, or not have something that's equal to or better than the job I'm leaving. Like some people are like that. Some people will show up and they don't like what the boss say, they'll quit, they ain't got nothing lined up and they'll move. That ain't, I don't think that's smart. I think smart people are, okay, I don't like this, so I'm gonna line up and position something so that I can move to something better. So if I'm a Black person and I'm dissatisfied with the Democratic Party, dissatisfied enough that I'm thinking that I'm gonna move somewhere, why would I go to a party that offers me nothing? Like, so I'm dissatisfied because I'm with a party that's giving me something, but not as much as I'd like, to a party that's offering me absolutely nothing. Like, make it make sense. Help me understand why you would do that. You think by your presence, you're going to move over there and you're going to transform that party just by your mere presence? Come on, man.
The Republican Party is divided and torn apart, just like anything else. There's a non-racist factor of the Republican Party, and there's a racist sector of the Republican Party.
Okay,
just like they're in the
right now, Tarris. Who are they catering to right now in the MAGA Trump era? They ain't catering to you.
Right now, it's torn. Right now, we have to find out in the midterms. Right now, we have to find out Thomas Massie is going to be challenged in the midterm by a MAGA racist Republican. I'm not going to call him racist. I don't know if he's racist or not, but I'm saying that MAGA form of the Republican Party is challenging Thomas Massie here in Kentucky. We'll find out in the midterms which side is Republicans are going to go with. It's as easy as that. But
if that's the case, Tarris, I'm going to receive what you're saying. You're saying let's wait and see which direction. So why not wait and see? Why pledge your loyalty to a party that you don't know which way they're going? Like it or not, you at least know where the Democrats are at. You at least kind of know you don't know what the Republicans are going. I know what I see right now, and what I see is not anything that would make me as a Black person feel like this is the party that cares about me. This is the party that cares about my history, my family, that's trying to close the economic gaps that exist. I don't see any of that. And there's no Black Republican. There's all they can point to is empowerment zones. Tim Scott, empowerment zone. What else other than Tim Scott and empowerment zone? And in fact, Republicans have rolled back even some of the things that Tim Scott tried to lay on and promote as for Black people. So I just don't understand it. I think you got a lot of Black people out there who are just trying to be smart, right? Who are trying to look smart and look like they're challenging and bucking the system, and it don't make sense.
It doesn't make sense to you, Kevin, because you work and you live in a community where Democratic leadership is working and it works for you. If you are living in a place in a rural America or places where Republicans rule, they're not going to listen to you at all. If you have no voice, if you come to a place like Kentucky or to a red state or a red county, let's take the states out of it. Let's go to county-wide parties. Like the Hamilton County Democratic Party is a strong county, so you guys can work within each other to get policies passed that you guys need to get done. If you take that out of a place that's like an all red city or a county and you're Black and you try to go to them as a Democrat, they're going to laugh you out the building. You can't even move the envelope at all. So in my experiences in working within the political system within Kentucky, I have found a way to work within the system because I've been doing it for such a long since I've been in 16, 17 years old. So I know the system. I know what kind of racists to look for. But overwhelmingly, you're right. And I would suggest that the Republican Party get their stuff together as far as racism goes before we start casting our nets out to bring in more people into our folds, because we are torn right now. There's a civil war going on between our party of MAGA racist Republicans and people who want to take it into another direction, a more colorful rainbow of states' rights and liberty and school choice and things that conservative party that believes that majority of black people believe in, minus the racism.
So I love that Tarris just mentioned conservative states' rights. I love that he mentioned that, because that is exactly what we were arguing against, or what we were arguing in 1857 when Dred Scott was decided. And that was all about states' rights versus federal rights. That's exactly what we're talking about. We talk about radical Reconstruction. And the radicals who were there were the Republicans, who were the liberals and the progressives in 1864 and in 1865 and in 1868. And it's what black Republicans, and really Republicans period, love to focus on when they say the Republicans are the ones who have made the black people okay and freed the slaves. No, it was progressives. Regardless of the R or the D, the mindset, the political position was progressive versus conservative. The conservatives were the ones who were the Democrats, but they're the ones that started the KKK. All that kind of stuff. But let me go back to Blexit for a second. Proud, historically black college graduate, Hampton University, 1993. As a matter of fact, this past weekend was homecoming. I didn't make it down, but all my frat brothers were sending me the videos from the greatest tailgate ever on the East Coast, with the Gamma Iota chapter of Alpha Phi Fraternity Incorporated. But we're seeing all these videos and things. But I saw that Blexit was down there with the intention of disrupting homecoming. And I appreciate what my university, my private Hampton University, followed the law and policy to examine the purpose of these folks being here. Not even the purpose, but they looked at these folks coming down and they said, wait, have you filled out the proper paperwork? How do we get in contact? So they used the policy and the law to say not here, not happening. They avoided the First Amendment, free speech, the freedom of association, the discriminating based on content that folks get in trouble for, and said, let's look at our policy. If you're not going to follow our policy, then you'll have no.
Yeah, but Fanon, aren't you really saying they use this administrative stuff to keep out policies or content that they didn't like?
Well, that
which is the criticism, by the way, or has been for years, about kind of, liberal Ivy League institutions as well as others, that, someone who is a quote conservative, whether you and I agree with that person or not, they get booed down. They don't get the opportunity to speak. And I mean, isn't that what you're saying? Really, they use these technical stuff to keep away people they don't agree with.
Well, what they did was they said, "Hey, lawyers, are these folks following?" Somebody just made a ridiculous statement online. We're looking at how do we ensure that if we're going to allow this, that it's done appropriately. These folks didn't follow procedure, therefore this will not happen on our campus.
Come on, what procedures are we talking about? I mean,
the procedure
come on.
said
You invite somebody, if somebody wants to speak,
and
if there's a campus group or somebody that invites somebody to speak, you're saying, oh no, we're not going to let them speak unless they check all these administrative boxes.
Sure.
Sounds like a way of discouraging speech you don't like.
No.
That's a way of ensuring that everyone has the equal opportunity to be heard.
Okay,
that's
but what are those things?
Content neutral restrictions. That's what that law, Supreme Court stuff is. Content neutral restrictions and rules.
What were the restrictions specifically that allowed them to keep these? And I don't agree with those Blexit people necessarily, but what are the specific restrictions that were used to keep them off? Can you tell us?
Well, first of all, this was homecoming. And at homecoming, different groups are allowed to set up as vendors. They're allowed to set up. In fact, we set up 3 stages with DJs. That has to be cleared by the university. So there is an appropriate process and guidelines
that's entertainment.
That's
not policy. That's not a speech or anything. That's just
they're university policies. They're university policies.
Okay, what was the university policy that kept them away? That's what I'm asking.
Or what was the policy about keeping them away from like participating as like maybe a busker or something like that? Nothing different as somebody as a musician going in there just to playing their music, or a Hebrew Israelite with a megaphone speaking their message. I'm sure that these Blexit people did not go through the proper procedures, but why? Like Phil says, this seems like a weaponized thing that's been weaponized against us. They use the system against them just like it was been used against us. So it's like it doesn't make sense.
No, it's saying, look, if you're going to come here and speak, then you're going to follow the rules. If we're
Okay, but
going
what
to
are the rules? I mean, it
you
sounds
gotta
like a
follow the
poll
rules, and
tax
you
or
gotta follow the
something.
rules too.
What are those rules that they didn't
Phil, it's
follow?
no different. It's no different than if you have a group that wants to protest or do something in the city of Cincinnati. You have to apply for certain permits. You have to get certain permissions to be able to come and do your thing. And a lot of that is based on safety. So you can't have, let's just say a KKK, for example, just show up on Fountain Square and start speaking. No, you have to follow procedures in order to be able to do that for a lot of different safety reasons. It's no different on college campuses. This happens all the time, not just at HBCUs, but it's happened here locally when you've had controversial speakers like I can't remember what the white supremacist was who wanted to come and speak at UC a few years ago, and he had to follow things. Look, I think that college campuses are places where ideas should be shared, where students should be challenged to think critically. I don't have a problem with Blexit people coming on campuses to speak, because I think the students will speak for themselves, whether they'll listen to it or not, whether they'll accept it or not. And I think that college campuses are the perfect places for these types of individuals and groups to show up and to challenge students to think critically about what they believe and where they want to be. But I agree totally with Fanon. You got to follow policies and procedures. It's simple. If you do that, you speak. If you don't.
Yeah, but what are the procedures that these guys were denied based on? I keep asking that.
Well, the article specified that we had. I mean, it specified what Hampton had as their guidelines and the paperwork that they did not fill out, nor the identities of the individual. So first of all, one of the requirements is that you identify who is going to be the point person. So that if there is an emergency, you do have someone that you are able to be in contact with. They didn't even provide that. I mean, I don't have the handbook here in front of me. However, I do know that there was a list of guidelines that they were supposed to follow that this group did not. And because they did not, for 15,000 plus people who are coming for homecoming, for tailgating and spending time on campus, that in order to have a platform that they had to follow those, they did not, and therefore they were denied that ability to have that platform. I will say that another thing, Hampton is a private university. And as a private university, we have certain additional protections that some of the public universities does not. And with the public universities like North Carolina A&T, there were a group that showed up at their homecoming a few weeks ago. And you can see from videos that are posted around on the internet that they were not met with it was not a peaceful exchange when those folks were there. And so, as somebody mentioned, it's partly a safety issue that's requiring this information and these policies be followed. But it's also a question of, if we're going to do it to other folks at other places, then fine. What's good for the goose is most certainly good for the gander and the whole flock.
You know, it's clear to me that everybody's right. I think you're all right on some levels, in the sense of, like, it's clear that, and this happens all the time, right? Like, they probably didn't want Blexit there because it was causing chaos. And so they check to see if they followed the guidelines, and they didn't. So while we were talking here, I tried to look it up to answer Phil's question. I just didn't find it. But essentially what's being reported is what the Fanon said, is that they didn't apply for any kind of permits or anything. They just showed up. And we know how the game goes. The first thing they're going to do is check to see that you follow the proper paperwork. And if you didn't, they're going to ask you to leave. That's the way the game goes. The only persons I blame in this is Blexit. Y'all put all this money into spending all these money on these influencers coming down here, making all these cool little graphics, but you didn't even properly put in the right permits. That's your fault. That's your fault. This must not be serious enough to Blexit. They took it like it was a game. Because if it was serious, if you're about your business, you cross all your T's and you dot all your I's, and they didn't do that. Oh, well, so what? But back to Kevin's point, I think we all agree with this. That's what college campus is supposed to be. I don't mind Turning Point USA. I don't mind Blexit or anybody else. That's what's supposed to happen. You're supposed to have the clash of ideas. And here's what I'll say to people that really got a problem with this, especially young people. If you really got a problem with Turning Point USA and Blexit, then go build the counterpart to it. Go build the counterpart to it. I see a lot of people complaining online, but what are you going to build? Charlie Kirk, like him or not, he built something that's outlasted him and is going to have an impact for generations. What are you going to do? That's the real question. Stop complaining. Get off the internet. Get with people who are like-minded and go build the counterpart so that your children and your grandchildren can have something that they believe in that can support them. But complaining online and on podcast, it means absolutely nothing. Zero.
Yep.
Zero.
Yeah, you gotta meet it. You gotta meet force with force. And I agree with everything that that's been said here, what you just said, Nathan. I mean, just imagine, and again, just from a safety standpoint, just imagine you allow a group to show up on your college campus, unvetted. You don't know who they are. They haven't filled out any paperwork. And let's just say a fight or an incident occurs there on campus and it becomes a huge issue. Some students are hurt or whatever. As a parent, if one of your kids is injured, the first thing you're going to ask, and you know it's true, is how did these people get on campus? Didn't you know? Don't you know who's on your own campus? So it is an incredible risk for these universities to allow people to just come on unvetted, unchecked, without the proper paperwork. This isn't about trying to prevent free speech, but it's about, hey, you got to do things in good order. And to Nathan's point, this speaks to the level of unseriousness of this group, and it lends to the fact that they aren't there for genuine conversation, but they're there for disruption, right? Because that's what disruptors do. Disruptors show up unannounced without a plan and try to create havoc and chaos for shock value. And congratulations.
How do you separate that from free speech? What's chaos? You could say that about civil rights demonstrations in the 60s. I mean, how do you differentiate?
I can't speak for Kevin, but I would say it's subjective. It's subjective, obviously.
I can speak from a black conservative Republican state. I think what they did was grifting, was trying to capture a moment and it was at the wrong time. If they were willing to be effective and they wanted to be taken serious, they would have done something. They would have applied for the proper paperwork and not showed up as buskers or some Hebrew Israelites with a microphone. They would have done the things right. It negates the movement of black Republicans like myself who are trying to answer Kevin's question. We have nothing. We have nothing. You said, why would we leave? When they do stuff like this, it negates all the things that we're trying to do if we were trying to counter offer and push the Democrats to do something more for America and to get not have black people on the plantation, so to speak, but to counter, like what you're saying, the Democrats being stagnant and not doing things for civil rights and pushing them. If we are their party, let's make them do more for black people. If we can put our foot on their neck instead of them being complacent with us and only coming around when it's time for election. To counter something with that, when we're trying to speak those talking points as serious talking points as black Republicans, and then they have these grifting moments. I would say it, grifters, going after low-hanging fruit and going to college campuses where these are the most intelligent thinking of our kind, of our educated mind, of people who are trying to grow knowledge within their brains, with academia. They're going to go there. I think they should have had Blexit wants to do that. Go to the hood and do something in the hood and get people registered to vote and get that demographic instead of trying to go to educated minds and debate for unwarranted reasons. So I just want to clarify that there's a divide in the Republican Party right now, and you're seeing it with stuff like this because I don't agree with it either.
They ain't even following the Donald Trump playbook. First of all, you showing up on college campuses, you already know college educated voters don't vote for Trump. How many times they got to run the polls? How many times you got to see it that Trump loses with college educated people? Translation: if you got knowledge, if you got facts, you don't vote for Trump. That's why he says, "I love the poorly educated." You're right. Blexit is doing the wrong thing. You going to the college campuses, you fighting a losing battle there. Because
but the point is they're going to
don't
people
vote
who don't currently support Trump, and they're trying to persuade them. There's no point in going to the preaching to the choir. So I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't know what all the requirements are.
There's plenty of poorly educated people out there to be
clickbait.
The harvest is
I mean, you're generalizing. It isn't like every
there.
college educated person didn't vote for Trump. I can tell you right now, in my circle, or most of whom are college educated. And again, I'm kind of an evangelical
tell you what the
group.
polling numbers say. The polling numbers say that with college educated voters, Trump loses. I didn't say none vote for him, but that's not his winning formula. That's why do you think Trump? I mean, look, Trump telegraphs it. I love the poorly educated. I love people who don't read.
What about Charlie
I love
Kirk?
people who
The
don't
whole
pay
point about
attention,
Charlie
who
Kirk,
don't
who
watch news, who don't read history. That's how Trump is able to get most of this crap.
They're just doing what Charlie Kirk did, even though I don't agree with Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk went and got the kids in college campuses, or at least tried or got a significant number to become Trump followers or GOP followers. They're just trying to do the same thing. So, I mean, I don't see what you're telling them where they ought to go isn't the point.
They're going for clickbait. They're going for clickbait. They're not going for good. They're going there to they're going there to get a viral moment so they can further their social media
but
influencer.
That's part of
they're going there for
effort is to get a viral moment. I mean,
but why are they going to do that? Why are they going to do that at the black people's expense?
Well, it's the same
that's
thing
what I'm saying.
that
That's
Charlie
like
Kirk did.
No.
This
is different.
Republicans. They're just trying to do the same thing. And I agree. Fine. I don't know what all the restrictions are, but us sitting here saying, "Oh no, they shouldn't be going there. They should be going here." You can say the same thing about Charlie Kirk. Oh, he shouldn't have been going to college campus. He should have been going here. That's their choice. The only issue we should be discussing is, were they prevented from going because of their content, or were there legitimate restrictions they didn't follow? And that's the debate.
And let me push back a little bit, Kevin. I respect what you're saying, but when we say, well, why are they going there when that's not an audience that's receptive to them? I grew up in an era where Black folks didn't normally and weren't the biggest consumers of cigarettes. Like, that just wasn't in our community. I mean, I know there were some, and menthols were the ones that they smoked, but the amount of advertising by cigarette makers on every billboard in downtown, all over, and I'm talking in Gary, I'm talking Chicago, I'm talking about Cincinnati, for the smallest percentage of folks who were actually using that product was outrageous. So they were spending all this money on what would be deaf ears, I guess with the hope that in the little amount of money that this group that they were trying to convince has, that they would spend it, even though they were the smallest percentage of spenders on that type of product. Second thing, Phil, you said that, the question is whether or not they were treated unlawfully or wrongfully when they were denied this opportunity. If they felt
no, I'm not saying that. It's not a lawful thing. I'm just raising the question. I'm just saying, was it because their content, or because they actually didn't follow some legitimate rules? That's all I'm asking.
And if they felt that they were treated unfairly by being denied, there's a historic strategy that has been employed. And in fact, what I would suggest to folks to do is to read a letter from a Birmingham jail, but even more so, don't just read letter from a Birmingham jail, read the background by how that even came to be. That was because, and I'm just gonna make this for 30 seconds, Martin Luther King and the marchers had been going to different places, and before they got there, they would get, wind that the marchers were coming, and so they were being, lawsuits were filed against them in federal court to stop them, with state court, in order to stop them from marching. And so because these things came in advance, they said, okay, we can't march. Well, on about the third time, they said, you know what? We can't worry about this rule that they're passing to keep us from marching, because it's taking the wind out of our sails, and it's also stopping us from moving forward. So they folded their arms, and in spite of a state order saying don't march, they knew it was coming. They marched anyway, and that's how he got arrested. And it was while he was sitting in that jail that he wrote on that paper.
It was peaceful disobedience, or didn't Martin King say something like a law that is unjust is shouldn't be obeyed, something to that effect? So I think that's a good point, and I happen to think that letter is one of the great documents that any of us have ever read. I mean, it's just incredible.
Well, to go back to a point that was made earlier, it's like, so Blexit is trying to convince Black people to leave the Democrat Party, but to lead them where? To here? So last week, this was all over every place. All of these, there was a chapter of the Republican Party of young GOP leaders, and their text messages got leaked. I mean, some really nasty stuff. I love Hitler, the N-word, monkeys, all kind of stuff, all the traditional racist stuff. And our vice president, J.D. Vance, said basically, boys will be boys, young people be young people. Like, black people are intelligent enough to know what's in their best interest. Yeah, the Democrat Party may not be are not perfect. Our parents aren't perfect. We're not perfect. So, of course, a political party that's been holding to money over the people is not going to be perfect. It's never going to accurately project and protect what we think is important as people who don't have billions and hundreds of thousands of dollars. But to lead us here, why would you want to be a part of this? Right? And then you got one of the party leaders who could be, the party leader in 2028, J.D. Vance, making a joke out of it. He completely dismissed it. So when I hear black people say, hey, we know what's best for them, I trust them. Black people know what's best for them. We know.
Well, and you can see it too. And look, this is the one thing that the Republican Party can't escape from. They used to at least fake it. Okay. I mean, I give them credit because at least back in the day, they used to disavow this type of stuff that you would see in the young Republicans, even if secretly behind closed doors with a wink and a nod, they were kind of like, and I'm not saying this is the case, but even if they were with a wink and a nod behind the closed door saying, yeah, we kind of with you, but we can't at least acknowledge it publicly, right? They would, the Richard Burke Society and the other things like the Republic. This has always been a part of conservative politics, this racism. And here's what frustrates me about these black Republicans is this is ingrained in the Republican Party, which is one, majority white. Okay, they see the country very differently than black people do. This is an absolute fact. Phil, good-hearted gentleman, but we know from he's more enlightened than most of his colleagues who call themselves Republican. I would say that. But even still, Phil has his blind spots and things that we argue back and forth about.
You giveth and you taketh away.
On this show, hey, look, I said you're better than most. But the
problem is,
there are not enough Phil Hemlichs who are a part of the Republican Party. And now Trump has basically said, hey, and J.D. Vance, by virtue of how he handled this, are saying this is acceptable. Right? Like, don't be too hard on these kids. First of all, most of these young Republicans was like in their 20s and 30s. They ain't kids. They people who should know better. And like this is the type of stuff that needs to be condemned unequivocally. And Republicans today, there's too much playing footsie. There's too much not wanting to come out and condemn this type of stuff. And to me, if you are black, how you can side with this? And I'm not saying there's not racism in the Democratic Party, because I actually believe that there are. I think there are racists in the Democratic Party too. That there are people who want to pretend that they're allies and enlightened, but they hold racisms and prejudices as well. So I'm not saying that the Democratic Party is absolved from it. But by and large, this is what is at too much. I'm not going to assign a percentage to it. But what I will say is that it's too much. It's too prevalent in the Republican Party that I don't see how any black person could just dismiss that and say, I want to be a part of that. Like, how can you be a part of a party that openly embraces this type of thing and then think they're going to do anything that's in your best interest? Because they've made a pact. They've made a pact with these people. At this point, we need you. We want your votes, because winning and maintaining power is more important to us than disavowing this type of stuff. So how is a black person, knowing that the top annals of leadership in this party have said they're willing to make this deal with the devil to stay in power, what can make you think? What would make you believe that they have anything even remotely closely associated with your best interests in mind?
I agree with the vice president. It was just a little banter, no problem. And I appreciate the fact that they have the ability and the intestinal fortitude to Post that kind of stuff in a venue that could be exposed for all of us to see. I'm glad about it. And I'll tell you what, I don't worry about them. I don't worry about folks like that. My uncle, and you know, I told you I grew up in different circumstances than I currently live in right now. My uncle, who was part of I'll say he was part of an organization that was not sanctioned by the government and did not engage in legal activities. My uncle told me, and it was about 12 or 13, he said, don't worry if you in a place and something breaks out, don't worry about the dude taking his shirt off, screaming and hollering about how he gonna kick everybody's behind and screaming and hollering. Don't worry about him. Worry about the one who's sitting in the corner that's not saying anything. That's the one that's actually dangerous. So these folks on here bloviating and spouting all this stuff about black folks and Jews, that's not the one you got to worry about. Who you have to be worried about are the folks who get elected, fronting like they're friends, and then getting there and pass policies that are contrary to our interests. Those are the ones that I'm afraid of. The judges who get elected, whose history is such that they have excoriated people's rights and tried to subvert folks, arguing that they're going to be expansive and big umbrella and helpful and constitutionally great. Those are the ones I'm afraid of. I appreciate the ignorance of the loud talkers saying stuff like that, because I can see you coming. It's the ones that I can't see coming that I'm worried about, Democrats and Republicans.
I understand your point about the ignorance of being too loud and appreciating it. I get you on that. I understand your point. You said the word judge, and it reminded me of a conversation. I'm not trying to get all into it. I just want to get your thoughts about it real quick before we move on. Talk about Angela Rye, reparations, and Gavin Newsom. But you were a judge, and last week we talked about Judge Ted Perry, who in my opinion said something he should not have said about the demise of Charlie Kirk. What's your take on that?
Well, first of all, you know, what I used to say when I was on social media, you know, and I retired 6 years ago, but I was heavy on social media and just being public as a judge, as an elected official, as somebody who recognized that I had certain restrictions. And it's not even I had certain restrictions that were going to be enforced. It was more that I recognized that I was under a microscope because of my position. And I tell folks all the time, if you're under a microscope, don't stick your finger at the person who's looking at you. You just don't do that, because you make yourself a regular target. Judge Barry is a good person. He's a good-hearted person. He's been on the bench for almost 20 years. But you know, Judge Barry has been in the news a couple of times for saying and doing stuff, you know, that folks say, "Come on, Judge, what you doing?" Like, you know. And so the idea that he made a statement, and we can talk about the substance of the statement or the fact that he made a statement at all. The fact that he made a statement at all, big deal. Judges, mayors, presidents make statements all the time. The content of his statement was nowhere, I mean, it wasn't even any issue. He didn't condone someone's death or murder. He didn't celebrate it. He made a comment about his opinion about the person whose life was taken. So the content doesn't even justify, from this retired judge, current lawyer's position, him being removed. That's the first part. The second part, Judge Barry retires in, let me check my clock, about a month. Now, what we know about our court system, it moves so quickly. Oh my gosh. Like, this probably won't even get the light of day until March or April of 27. I mean, so what is this being done for? Other than being done for attention right now, because it's the cute thing to do, Judge Ted Winkler went on Facebook arguing with the defendant who had a case pending in his courts, and he was publicly reprimanded. It was a public reprimand. They say, "Shame you don't do that again." Judge Winkler didn't get removed for arguing with somebody on Facebook. I just don't believe that he will, nor do I believe he should be disciplined in any way for stating his opinion about the death of Charlie Kirk. Because now, let me say this: if he said it during the case, if he said to somebody standing in front of him, "You know what? You look like Charlie Kirk. I hit all Charlie Kirks. I'm giving you the max." Well, now we got a problem. Mm-hmm. But the idea, I mean, you know, and I hate to kind of monopolize this. My dad was on the Supreme Court for 19 years in Indiana, and he was not a social media person. Like, he was like, "Man, what are you doing on there? I mean, you got pictures of you fishing and going to concerts and stuff." I'm like, "Yeah, Dad. I mean, I like to fish." He said, "Well, but you know that presents a potential conflict. I mean, what happens if somebody comes in front of you on violating a fishing license or a boating DUI? They can ask you to remove yourself because they're gonna say, well, this judge loves fishing, and because he loves fishing, man, he's not gonna be fair to me in his case. It's outrageous. I mean, I think it's outrageous, but that's the extension of the concern and the fear that folks in this realm have. When again, nothing that Judge Berry said, in my opinion, justifies him being removed from any case, nor justifies him being removed from his seat. All of us are human as judges. And unless we're going to ban all of us from having any type of social media or being present, then this is a nothing, and a nothing that's getting a lot of attention, unfortunately.
And I would say that one thing to keep in mind, I assume Judge Rucker would agree on this, is that lawyers have a higher standard than non-lawyers, especially judges, but all lawyers do. That's why you see people like Rudy Giuliani and that guy from Claremont Institute that were spreading all the lies about the 2020 election. That's why they were disbarred. The other people that did that weren't necessarily punished for spreading that lie, but they are held to a higher standard. You know, we haven't talked about this, but one of the things I think that is very disturbing to me, and I would suspect the rest of you, is these prosecutions that basically Trump has demanded that of his enemies. Now, you'll notice that the guy he appointed is Siebert, who was the U.S. attorney in Eastern District of Virginia, obviously a Trump loyalist because he was appointed. He refused to prosecute James Comey or Letitia James. Okay, now, was it because of his morals or ethics? Could be. But I will bet that what he knew was he didn't want to lose his law license. Because if some future body looks at that, looks at what the person who did indict them, they could lose their license because they prosecuted someone that they had no real justification for doing so. So I think the point is that people who are lawyers are held to a higher standard, or should be.
And therefore, judges should be as well. I wish you were on the panel with us that day, Fanon, because I got some pushback, but I'll leave it. I'll let sleeping dogs lie. That was a conversation for the last show. I want to move on and talk about.
I want to touch something that Fanon
You want to jump
said
in
about,
there? Go ahead, Terry.
what he said about how important. He said that it's not a big deal about what the GOP did and these the future leaders. A couple of them were elected officials. There were like some state representatives and stuff like this. And I'm going to tell you why I believe that it was extremely important, because being a part of the political process in Kentucky and an active member of the Republican Party, I see how they put these chess pieces in place, from chairs, county chairs, to future state reps. So these people were the future. These were the future judges and lawyers and legislators in their respective counties or cities or states or places. So it was extremely important for these people to be ousted. And when it happened, J.D. Vance's response, let's all not sweep that under the rug when it comes time for him to run for election in 20 or whenever. If he's going to put his hat into the ring to be president of the United States. Let's take all these ridiculous things that he's done, from the cats eating the dogs to his the Cincinnati brawl, to now this mishandling of situations to where he should have been the first to reprimand things like this.
Well, that'll help him though in a Republican primary. I mean, politically, what he said there, is horrible and stupid as it was, along with some of those other things. Those are designed to help him win a Republican primary. He's not stupid.
Well, we're gonna see. We'll see with this. We have primaries coming up in 2026, and I really don't care anymore, because I'm like, I don't want to be a part of any of that kind of stuff. Where racism lives, I don't want to be anywhere racism lives. So if racism is going to, if the Republican Party moves into that direction, I won't support the Republican Party. I will either turn independent or do my thing. If I'm talking about if Trump's, I'll put it this way: if Trump's appointed MAGA person who is running against Thomas Massey, someone who is anti-Trump, someone who is bucking the system completely, if Thomas Massey loses in this 2026 primary, I'll walk away from the Republican Party. But I don't believe my party is going that way. I don't believe there's enough racists, and I have hope in that, because And if they do,
can we watch? Is 2:26?
Yeah.
On 10:28 p.
I'll go back and I'll clip this, Fanon. And I want to say something else, Fanon. It's an honor to have you to be on a panel with you, man, because I have a tremendous amount of respect for you, not only as a lawyer, as a judge, but most importantly, as a spoken word artist. You don't know this, but I've seen you do spoken word before, and I have the utmost respect for anyone who can get up there and do that, and above anything else.
You know what? You know what? this is interesting. You said spoken word and it triggered a trauma memory. So, Fanon, you might remember what I'm talking about. This is interesting. So exactly. So Phil Hemlich and now Fanon Rucker. Quick story. This is one of my most embarrassing moments. I'm new in Radio 1.
Any embarrassing moments of yours you can share. We'll take time.
I don't mind.
We appreciate it.
I'm new at Radio 1, new hot shots, superlative flows. You can't tell me nothing. I know I'm doing my thing, right? And they asked me to be a part of some kind of spoken word thing. So I went down there. I'm like, man, I'm going to kill this. I'm looking good. I'm feeling good. And I memorized, I think it was Thieves in the Night by Black Star, Mos Def, and Talib Kweli. I thought I memorized it. Man, the room, that was back when spoken word was the rage. I forget where we were, Fanon. We was downtown somewhere.
Main Street. Roxy's on Main.
Right, exactly. It was packed. Everybody was in there. My colleagues was in there. I'm new. I'm about to show out. And I get up there, y'all, and completely forget every line. I'm stumbling. I'm looking around. I'm looking at people. They're looking at me like, I'm like, oh, God. It was all downhill, right? So I just peeled myself off the floor and walked over and sat down. I didn't want to be seen. I didn't want nobody to look at me. Fanon came after me and killed it. He absolutely killed it. Everybody was like, oh, it was the greatest ever. I'm sitting here like,
Can you imagine trying to go after him? What if you would have went after Fanon?
Hey, Nathan.
Oh my God, that would have been worse.
Hey, Nathan, when you in those crash and burn moments, brother, just burn all the way up. Make them have to come out with the cane and drag you off the stage, start breakdancing, start just act the fool. If you going down like that, man, just go give them something to go with, brother. Next time you find yourself, just crash all the way.
I walked in like this. I walked out like this. I didn't want to make eye contact with nobody. But me being me, always keeping it real. I told Fanon right after where we've been laughing about this from time to time ever since. It was beautiful. He killed it. I forget what he did, but it was great, though. Yeah. Just triggered thank you for my trauma, Tarris. Appreciate it, man.
Hey, let's bring that back. Let's bring spoken word back. Let's bring the spoken word back.
I had a flashback. Like, oh no, it was terrible.
That is funny.
Look for opportunities on the bench to deliver my decisions in spoken word. Sir, I must explain to you that your testimony made no sense. I didn't actually do it. I thought about doing it a couple of times though.
That would have been dope, Fanon. That would have been dope.
That would have been dope.
That would have been dope.
Yeah. And Thieves in the Night by Black Star is so classic. I didn't know justice whatsoever. What were you gonna say, Kevin?
Oh no, I was just gonna make a point, kind of tying the knot between the Judge Barry situation and J.D. Vance's comments about the young Republicans, and this just kind of outlines sort of the hypocrisy of the whole MAGA thing. So think about this. J.D. Vance said, "Hey, these were just stupid words, a mistake that young kids made, and their futures shouldn't be impacted because of them saying some dumb things." This is J.D. Vance saying this, and a whole lot of people cheering that. The same people who want Judge who got like a month left, they want him resign. His future is already settled as far as he's concerned. He about to retire. He gonna ride off into the sunset. But they still want that pound of flesh from Judge Barry, who didn't say anything nearly as objectionable and offensive as what these young Republicans did. But their future should be protected. But Judge Barry needs to step down. That's the type of hypocrisy that exists in MAGA. They're against cancel culture until it comes time to want to cancel a lib that they don't like. Then they're all for it. But let's protect these young racists. I'm not going to even call them young Republicans. They're young racists. That's what they are. Let's protect these young racists and make sure that they have a future. right? But a retiring judge who basically gave his opinion and didn't say things that many people would disagree with, in terms of the subject of the person that he was talking about, he doesn't deserve to be a judge anymore, man. Make it make sense to me.
It's outrageous.
I'm going to do something that I rarely do, which is hold my tongue for the interest of the show, because I could push back on that, but I want to get this other topic in because I really want to get your guys' thoughts on this. And that is, I don't know, she's a pundit, she's a podcaster, she's an influencer, she's a commentator. Her name is Angela Rye. And she took some heat recently because she criticized Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom is, of course, the governor of California. He most recently, within the last, I'd say 4 or 5 days, maybe over the weekend, on a podcast, another podcast called Up in Smoke, which is one of my favorites. He basically put it out there that he's going to be running in 2028 for president. He has been the most vocal and vociferous pushback and critic of the Trump administration. And a lot of people have been applauding him for that, saying that he's providing the backbone and the stand up to itness that people have been saying they want for Democrats. But he also did something recently that, ticked a lot of black people the wrong way. He voted against a reparations bill that would have, and I don't have all the details, but it would have basically given universities the ability to give preferential treatment to the descendants of slaves. He voted against that. Can't tell you what his reasons are. There were some other provisions or tenets in it. And Angela Rye, she went on social media and let him have it. And immediately people said, well, wait a minute, sis. Yeah, reparations is important, but Gavin Newsom is fighting a bigger fight. And we don't want to injure him before he goes into a fight with Trump. I want to play a video for you and then get you guys' thoughts about this. If I can play it here. Yeah, here it is. I may take a second. Just give me 1 second here. They're talking about Prop 50.
The things that civil rights leaders, y'all grannies, y'all auntie, your great auntie, the people whose houses got burned down because they wanted the right to vote. And now all we got to do is show up and mark yes on Prop 50 to have that opportunity. And we arguing about not criticizing some white man. People are unable to separate Prop 50 from Gavin Newsom.
Why would you attack Gavin Newsom when he's the only fighter we have against Donald Trump? We have a role as the citizens. We can say, that ain't cool. I don't like that. I'm going to hold you accountable on that. But what I'm not about to do over here is lose my political power.
Gavin is the artist and Prop 50 is the song. So you're going to have to separate the artist from the song. You ain't really got to like the artist. You ain't got to like everything they do, how they move. But that song is a...
So Prop 50 is the initiative in California to allow them to redistrict. And what they're trying to do is balance what's happening within a lot of Republican states around the country. So the argument is, why are you criticizing him about this reparation thing? Because right now people are voting on Prop 50 and that's connected to Gavin Newsom. So if you criticize him, then people might not vote for Prop 50 and that's going to have a bigger impact on black people. And so it just speaks up to the question, like, when is it comfortable? When is it okay to tell the truth?
I'll tell you, there's such a thing as telling the truth. There's such a thing of being tactful. I have this, I kind of changed around my own podcast, which is called Sanity Check. And I'm now doing like a dialogue with different prominent people, including Mr. Aldridge there and ultimately with you, Nathan, and they're showing bits of it. But last week I had on David Pepper, who I'm still bitter, beat me in the 2006 county commission race, but he was former chairman of the Democratic Party, and he and I have kind of worked together on a lot of anti-Trump kind of stuff. And the question that I put to him is, at least my point of view is, given the threat, and I think this is what the person who was bringing this up, and that given the threat to democracy, I believe that I don't care if it's pro-choice, pro-life, police reforms, whatever the heck it is, I happen to think we need to put all that stuff aside and join together to protect our democracy. And I do not agree. Oh yeah, you can take shots at Newsom, but still vote for Proposition 50. Well, it does damage that if you start attacking him on, I don't care what it is. So my belief is that we all have to just, not that we don't stop agreeing or believing what our other issues or beliefs are, But the threat here is so significant that I think we need to put aside our other issues, whether you're Republican or Democrat, and come together and do everything we can to protect our freedoms, protect our democracy.
So what Phil was talking about is sort of this wartime philosophy. You've heard about this before, right?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
It's like when you're at war, you're not supposed to be critical of the president, right? Like at that point in time, it's like, hey, we're united as a country, so whatever disagreements we might have, let's put that on the shelf and support the president who's representing us all. So it's a bit of that. It's a bit of that same philosophy, and I can see where that comes from, particularly now in the times where we're at, where Trump and MAGA is viewed among Democrats and disaffected Republicans as a threat that's worth defeating above all others. And my position is it's always a good time to tell the truth. The truth is there's never a wrong time to tell the truth. Now, how you do it, how you go about doing it, is do you have to criticize Newsom publicly, or is this something where you can put pressure on him, behind closed doors? You need to do. There's some things that are I hope that's not me.
I'm not hearing any more. Can you still hear us, Kevin?
I can hear you. Are you hearing that?
I heard it for a second and it went away. Now we don't hear your audio at all.
Do you still hear that ringing though?
I don't hear the ringing, no. You just came back.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, never mind. So is there a way to sort of let Newsom know that, in less public ways that don't create necessarily the type of dissension that are going to turn people off on him? Are there better ways to do that? Absolutely. Because I'm not one who thinks that, on important issues that you should allow those things to escape, or that he shouldn't escape scrutiny or criticism from people who feel like this is an important issue. I mean, look, for many people, this is a big deal. This is an issue that, you want to see where somebody comes down, and you kind of want to know what they might do. Hey, if you are going to run for president and we do put the keys to the country in your hands and you get our vote, this might be endemic of what you're going to do when you get in there. And if this is an issue that is important to you, you can't just kind of sort of say, well, hey, let's just beat Trump and worry about it later. Well, no.
Well, if he had come out for reparations, do you think that would have affected the vote on Prop 50, which I happen to think is the most important vote, because it's going to decide whether the Trump people are able to basically rig the 2026 elections by adding these additional seats. And Prop 50 is 5 seats that's going to counter the Texas ones. If there was something where if he came out for reparations, which, let's face it, it has a lot of opposition on both sides, whether you agree with it or not. Do you think let me just ask the question. Do you think if he had come out for reparations,
I agree with you.
Do you think it would have affected the vote on Prop 50? That's my question.
So let me say this, and this goes back to this actually might even play into the hands of those Black Republicans that I'm talking about. But you're right, Phil. There is disagreement on both sides, Democrats and Republicans, but specifically by who? Specifically by who Democrats and Republicans don't like reparations for Black people. Who?
I don't like reparations.
Go ahead and say it, Phil. Who don't like it? White people don't like reparations.
Fine.
That's white Democrats.
You need white
that's
votes
white
to
Republicans.
win Prop 50.
So if you're telling me in a Democratic blue state that reparations is going to be an impediment to getting Prop 50 passed, then what you're telling me is that white Democrats don't like reparations either, yeah. And they're going to be pissed off and not support Prop 50.
Well, it's not just Democrats. You got people who are kind of moderates, whatever party, who might be like me, very, very concerned about our democracy and our having free elections. But there are, now granted, if it was me, I'd vote for Prop 50 no matter what. But there are going to be, I think, a large segment of people that aren't as well attuned, informed, and maybe committed to the anti-MAGA thing as some of us might be. And they're saying, well, that jerk Newsom, now he's for reparations. I'm not going to vote for his proposition. I'm just saying it's a question of what is more important. You want to risk Proposition 50, which could affect the democracy of our country for years and years to come. You got to risk that to be able to say, I'm going to take a tough stand on reparations. I don't care.
I think it speaks more, Phil. I think that speaks more to race in this country. That if somebody says, I care so much about reparations for Black people that I'm willing to risk that I'll let the democracy burn and fold because I'm mad about reparations.
People don't think that logically. They don't think that way, Kevin. You're talking about people who aren't that attuned and maybe hear this thing or hear that thing.
I'm just saying,
from a political standpoint, are you saying you want to take that risk?
You're not. You see, I don't see it. This is the part that you don't get. And if we're talking about democracy and preserving a democracy, we want to preserve a democracy for everybody that's equal and fair and just and all of these other things. And what I'm hearing is that reparations is a deal breaker even for democracy. That paying a check forward or trying to right historical wrong.
Okay, maybe for some people it is. You want to lose their votes? Yeah, maybe for some it is. Not for me, but for some it is.
So you're saying, okay,
that's good. If you're going to vote, you're saying if you people are going to vote against Prop 50 because of that, then I don't care.
You're saying to me that righting a historical wrong would upset you so much that you wouldn't vote to preserve our democracy. That's a challenge.
I don't think that's what it is myself. I kind of lean toward, Black people got to stop being so emotional and be more strategic. Like there's not a melanated person in this country that's ever read a book and understands this history that doesn't really understand that justice in the form of reparations is necessarily, that we need that. It should have already been done. However, how we get there is not going to be a straight line because of the money, because of the race, because of all those factors. For me, democracy is the precondition. How do I want to say this? To me, democracy is the precondition for social justice. And reparations is social justice. So the reparations conversations is moot if there is no democracy. So Angela Rye and these other influencers, it must have been a slow news day, or you want to beat your chest and you want to, be the Black influencer today. That is nothing compared to the larger issue of democracy. And so if in any way there's going to be any voters out there who are going to be like, turned off by Gavin Newsom because of her commentary on social media, it is not worth what could potentially happen if we lose our democracy. We're talking about civil rights, reparations. Reparations is off the table if you don't have a democracy. It's not even going to be considered. You're going to be struggling for civil rights. So I just think we got to stop being less emotional and more strategic and think our way through that. And it may not be a straight line. We may have to make some uncomfortable alliances. We might have to eat some crow. It's just what it is in order to preserve what we already have. And then we can start talking about building for these other things.
Angela Rye has an audience, though. She has an audience that she has to appease to. And she might not agree with Gavin Newsom. It might be her chess move for if he's making a move that he's running for governor. She's saying, making a line in the sand right now. I don't support him. So these are going to be the shots that I'm going to take at him for her. So, and as a purveyor of her truth, she should be able to say that without even
say the same thing for Vance.
Without
to Vance too. That's his truth, and he's going for his base.
Right. So we got to take those things into account. So I'm saying, if she should be able to say that because she's earned her base.
She's able to say it. Is it the right thing though? That's what we're talking about.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Who said? Why shouldn't it be the right thing? If you guys are the party of no kings, why do you guys got to protect your front runner?
Nathan just said it very well.
Because you protect your front runner.
I said it. He said that that if there's a risk of losing our fight for democracy, Come on.
So no matter what, keep your mouth shut and fall in line with the king. Keep your mouth shut and fall in line with the king, right? And Gavin Newsom he's not even going to win the primary. But y'all don't say nothing about him.
I don't care about his presidential race. I care about our democracy.
Here's my pushback on this. Is y'all are acting like Gavin Newsom is already the appointed chosen one. There hasn't even been a primary. There hasn't even been
Prop 50 that I'm concerned about, not him.
This is why I think this is an important.
We're talking about Prop 50, not Gavin Newsom running for president.
I get you, but I'm talking about Gavin Newsom and criticism of Gavin Newsom over this reparations thing. I mean, I think it does matter because it gives you an insight into the mind of a person that you're going to be asking Democratic voters, some Black Democratic voters, to vote for. And he's giving you insight into where.
Okay, so don't vote for him in that primary. But what like Nathan just said, the primary, do whatever you want in that primary. We're talking about right now if we are going to give up 5 congressional seats to the MAGA people. And that is the primary issue, not who's running for president, Gavin Newsom or anybody else in 2028.
I guess I look at it like this, and this is on a deeper level. And again, this is the point that I'm trying to get to. I'm speaking about these folks who would be so upset about reparations that they wouldn't vote for Prop 50. This is what I'm hearing you say is don't criticize him and he's right to back off of reparations because that would upset some good
because of a greater evil.
That would upset some good white folk who would probably vote for Prop 50 and they won't vote for it if you do reparations. Yeah. Think about what that's saying.
I think exactly what it says.
Think about what that's saying about those people. That's what I'm asking you to think about.
We need those people.
What do you think is saying, Kevin?
We're going to lose 5 congressional seats.
So as a Black person, as I'm looking forward to my future, I've already been on record in saying that I don't think reparations is ever going to happen. At least not.
Exactly, which even emphasizes the point.
At least not in the traditional form.
Something's never going to happen.
At least not in the traditional form that we talk about. Right?
So you're going to
it's not going to happen for precisely this reason, because this is what it's always going to come down to. It's always going to come down to preserving the democracy, or we don't want to offend these good white folks who going to vote Democrat, but they're too racist to give reparations. So we can't give Black folks anything because we don't want to upset them.
This is different. This is different.
We got to win. No, it's not different. It's always going to be the line.
Yeah, well, okay.
Right now,
if you think this time is similar to other times, I think you're wrong about that.
It's always the same story.
This is not the same as before.
Black folks have been told from time immemorial, wait, just wait. And we still wait.
That's the emotional part that we need to stop doing.
And every time they want to sell you those wolf tickets that eventually is going to change. But whether it's Donald Trump or somebody else down the line, you're always going to get that. You're always going to get this speech from people like Phil that here's why we can't make right for you Black.
It's not just Phil.
This election.
It's not just Phil. It's me too. I mean, on one hand, listen to what you just said. Listen to what you just said. On one hand, you said you had. But listen to what you just said. On one hand, you said you don't think that reparations is ever going to happen. But at the same time, you want to validate this tactic for reparations that you don't think is ever going to happen. What's the point of doing it if you don't? What's the point of risking Prop 50, which is our democracy, for an issue that you yourself don't even believe is ever going to happen?
The reason why I don't believe it's ever going to happen, Nathan, is because we don't have the
reason doesn't matter.
We don't have the stones to stand 10 toes down.
Your reason doesn't matter. I'm just saying, if you yourself don't even believe that reparations is possible, why would we risk our democracy for something that you don't even think is possible? That's what I'm saying. We got to stop the emotions. This is a different time.
It's principle. It's not emotion.
That's emotion. We need to be strategic. Strategically, there are bigger issues right now than reparations. Because if we don't have a democracy, we're going to be fighting for foods. We're going to be fighting for who got the best, seat in the fields. Reparations ain't going to be a thought. So why are we even having this conversation about something that clearly is not as important as Prop 50 is? It's just emotion. And they get you with that, well, they always say this to us all the time. It's always been at you, and you are right about that. But put those emotions to the side and think strategically. strategically. And there were a lot of people. And just to clarify, Angela Rye, she took crazy heat. She did like 2 or 3 videos because the people on Instagram was coming for her neck. And I was very surprised to kind of see that. I didn't think that crowd would have that kind of reaction. So she kept making videos to explain herself. And she said, listen, we can do 2 things. We can hold Gavin Newsom accountable. But yeah, I'm telling you to support Prop 50 at the same time. And the problem with that is there's a lot of distracted voters. There's a lot of voters that vote with their emotions, and they're not going to think that way. They're going to get all caught up on we as a people and we shall overcome, and there ain't going to never be a good time for reparations, boss. And they're going to forget what the larger point is and what the real issue is Prop 50 right now.
And I get what you're saying, Nathan. I mean, and you can hold 2 truths at the same time. This is why I'm saying, like, I think if you feel strongly, like Phil said, and this is my point, that why can't white people think strategic? Like, we always put
because they're white people.
We always put the pressure on black people to think strategic. Why don't white people have to?
You know who you should take that up with? God.
Why can't a white? And this is my main.
Take that up with God.
This is my. Oh, wait a minute. This is my main point. Why can't a white person say? Why can't a white person say, "Hey, let's still support Prop 50"? Even if we don't like Gavin Newsom voting for reparations. But no, black people are supposed to accept and take it on the chin about reparations and still support and vote for. See, that's what I'm tired of.
Ask God why he made you and us black. I don't know.
The guest hosts are not necessarily the views.
I guess I just got to say this. If that's the attitude that we're going to take and that's the position that we're going to take, then it's no wonder that we don't ever get anywhere. It's no wonder why.
I don't know if that's fair.
I think it's absolutely fair because we always have to capitulate.
Yeah, we do.
We always have to capitulate.
Yeah, and
nobody is ever asking white society to capitulate or put that pressure on them. Because it's like, well, if we criticize Gavin Newsom, and
you're doing that emotional thing.
I hate that.
See, you playing on people's
emotions.
emotions.
It's not emotional. Again, it's
we
not
got to
emotional.
take that. I don't know why God made us black.
It's principle.
I don't know why God made us a minority. I'm sure there's a larger plan, but these are the rules of the game. These are the rules of the game of being a melanated person in America in these days and times. It's a reality we were all born into. We didn't choose it. I tell you one thing, I wouldn't choose anything else. So I got to deal with the cards that are dealt. Sometimes I play poker. Why did I get 3 clubs? I don't know. It happened. It is what it is. And I just got to figure out with this hand that the universe gave us the best way to try to do whatever we can. It is what it is.
This is what I talk about a lot in some of these issues that we discuss. It's the burden of the minority. We're talking about whether to decide what we're going to object or talk about is a burden for the minority. Whether we are worried about every day whether or not we're going to be subverted in what we're trying to do in our voices and our votes, that's a burden of the minority. The majority doesn't have to worry about those things as a normal course. So when we say, well, why don't whites have to do this? Why? Because they're the majority. And so trying to line up the minority voice, the minority position, the minorities together into a unified front in order to take a step is the burden of the minority. And it's about, trying to overcome or override or convince the majority that the cause that's being taken up is also beneficial to the majority. And that's a strategic, political, philosophical, persuasive position that takes skill. Because if I am in the majority and I'm the one that makes the decisions and I'm saying, that ain't my problem, you have to convince me why it is my problem, why it is going to affect me in some way. Otherwise, I'm going to be more focused on the issues that are my concern. I appreciate that in the civil rights movement and in the 1920s and in the 1960s that we had individuals who recognized that the unfair treatment affected all of them. I appreciate that persuasive position, partly because they saw folks getting their heads bashed in and they saw water hoses and because they saw dogs and the humanity or the inhumanity of those pictures and those visions led them to say, this is affecting me and my country in a big way. And so we got everybody to hop on board and to start to change things. But guys, that will always be the issue that we have to fight about. And that is, how can we convince the majority that this is their issue too? we haven't been able to convince the majority that reparations is important as a collective. So
Guys,
it's going to be our burden going forward forever.
I need to jump off, but if you wouldn't mind, you guys are free to talk about me in front of my back after I'm gone. But I did want to make one point from kind of goes back as I thought about this. But a couple people raised the question. Well, maybe Kevin said, why should a black person ever support the Republican Party? Okay, it's not a response, but the point that I would ask is, why would any white person support the MAGA movement? Because it's your democracy, it's your freedoms, it's black and white that are at stake. And I'm not saying, I think we are seeing increased discrimination through the whole Trump thing, as witnessed by the black and women too, the black and female generals that he's thrown out and all that kind of stuff. But I just would point out that every one of us has our rights at stake, no matter what our color is. And that's why I feel so strongly about just opposing this whole MAGA movement. But thanks, guys. I appreciate the discussion.
Good seeing you,
appreciate
Phil.
you.
Good seeing you, man. Take it easy.
Wow, I actually agreed with Phil a couple times a day. Wow, I ain't gonna take a shower now. Goodness.
Yeah, I know the feeling. When I felt with Phil, I went home and took 3 showers one day. I got out, dried off, and I was like, I'm still not clean. I need to get back in there. Get back in here, fire hose me. This is just a difficult one for me, because I think, to Fanon's point, we're always in this position of trying to convince white folks why it's in their best interest to fix a problem they created, to fix an issue that they created, right? Because make no mistake about it, race, the whole concept of race, is a white creation. For much of world history, there was no even concept of what race were. Yeah, people were different, but it was mostly because of sort of like culture. Like, the Greeks maybe thought they were better because they felt like they were a more advanced society than other societies around them because of what they built. It had very little to do with skin color. It wasn't until, I think it was the Spaniards decided that they wanted to have a reason to enslave Africans, that they created this notion of blackness and whiteness, and the savagery of black people, to justify the enslavement of black people and the need to not keep white people as slaves anymore, and create a whole economic industry around the subjugation and the enslavement of black people. And whether you want to accept it or not, those same economic realities exist to today, and it's all about white advantage. Giving reparations, the reason why so many white people, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, have an issue with giving the black people reparations or making right historical injustices is because in their mind, it is going to take away an advantage that they have and give it to you. And they don't want that to happen. Why should you get it? Nobody's giving me anything, while at the whole time not recognizing that they're the beneficiaries of a system that has been set up for them to succeed. Nathan, you said it a couple times on this program, that if a white person, ain't successful, hey man, you messed up your lottery ticket, right? It's the truth. And so we are always made to have to justify why white folks should make right an injustice that they perpetrated on us. And that is the problem that I have with it. I don't say that I don't think reparations will ever happen, not because I don't think that they should happen.
Right. I got that.
It's because of what I just said. Mm-hmm. And it's a white Democrat and it's a white Republican problem, and it's not a black problem. And this is the problem that I have with us sometimes, is we make it our problem. We make it our burden. It's their burden. They're the one that created this mess. They're the one that created this system, not us. But yet it's always heaped on us time and again that it's on us to fix the problem. Last I heard, there's always an expectation that you fix your own mess. But there's a reluctance. There's a reluctance to accept responsibility and fix their own mess. And they always run that game on us. Like somehow we're asking for something unreasonable.
And they aren't the only ones running the game, though. You know, I've sat back and watched a lot of these so-called, you know, YouTube influencers, and they're running on the whole black thing, and they're using reparations as a part of their game. And because, you know, we kind of missed the mark. I mean, I think it's possible to get reparations. I mean, you might be talking about a 10, 20, 30, 40-year window that starts at the states. But if you go to some of these YouTube channels where the people that profess to be so pro-black and pro-reparations, they worried about who the president is. That's not how you would start reparations conversations. It would start locally. It would start at state level. But they mislead people because it sounds good every election cycle. So we got people in-house, right, who look like us, who actually, and they're talking that reparations game, but in actuality, they're actually leading people astray. Talking about Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. That's not where you start that conversation. It starts with your state rep. It starts with your city council. It starts with your governor, and it starts with your members of Congress. But now we live in a totally gerrymandered state. So what I can see in the future is you might have some states, probably blue states, that may pass some kind of reparations bill, right? But on the federal level, that's on lock, especially with the Supreme Court. The same people that didn't vote for Hillary are some of the same people that claim to love black people so much they so pro-reparations, and all they did by not voting is put a nail in their coffin in terms of their efforts to try to get reparations on the federal level. We got too many people miseducating people online about the way to actually make it happen because it sounds good, right? And it sounds all emotional. We should have had this. What about the Native Americans? And then they say, Joe Biden didn't care about reparations. That's not where the conversation starts. So there's a total miseducation inside our own community with some of our own melanated influencers that are part of the culprit and part of the problem as to why it's so difficult to make something like that happen.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything that you just said there, Nathan. I know we've kind of veered off of like the initial point of your conversation into this discussion about reparations, and that may be partly my fault. But I just make this notion about sort of letting our elected officials, like I don't think it's a small thing to pay attention to his position on this. And I think I would be curious to hear his explanation as to why he voted it down. Because I do think
probably give you two, one in private and one in public, and they'd probably be different. You know how the game goes.
I understand how the game goes. But I need to hear that whatever the behind closed doors explanation is, the real explanation, the truth. That's what I need to hear. And I think that, you know, the politics of this, I think perpetually, because there's always some emergency, there's always something else that comes up that said, I would just assume as these elected officials be honest and just say, hey, y'all might as well just quit talking about this. It ain't gonna happen. None of us are going to support, rather than paying lip service to it and then voting against it and then trying to tell folks to wait on reparation, whatever that looks like. I don't know what that looks like. That's probably a larger, broader conversation with the people of your state, cities, whatever, wherever you decide to do it. It might look like different things in different places, right? But I'm not just going to dismiss and say people who are critical of him are wrong for not holding his feet to the fire on it. I can do that and still vote for Prop 50. If you can't do that and still vote for Prop 50, then what that says to me is that there's some things more important to you than preserving democracy.
But you can do that because you're going to think your way through it. And what we need to realize is some people that's going to feel their way through it. They're feeling, they're not thinking. And they're going to hear that potentially and be like, you know what? Bump whatever Gavin Newsom has to say. He must be wrong because he didn't pass that. And we need to be sensitive that there's people like that in the electorate and think our way through this, in my humble opinion. But that's all I got, fellas. We can circle back around if there's anything that you want to bring up that we didn't hit. I got one of my most embarrassing moments in. And I thought we had some good conversation. And hold on, this is police involved shooting in Madisonville. Oh boy, that's not good. Thank you, Iris. That is not good at all. Wellness check, no answer to the door. CPD, get the work. Someone is standing there with, not good. Standing there with a gun, they didn't get. Well, I'm not gonna be satirical in a moment like this and connected to the movement at the police chief level. But thank you for that update. I appreciate it. But that's all I got, folks. Fanon, thank you, sir.
And I assume, I'm sure that you all have spoken on it at some time in the past. What we really need to be have our eyes open for is this constitutional convention movement that I think at this point is about 40 to 50% to the place that they need with the number of states necessary in order to call another constitutional convention. It was the first, second, and third, fourth, fifth amendments are all at stake if there is another constitutional convention that's being called, and the people who are calling it are just as able to remove equal protection from the Constitution and from the amendments as they are to keep it in. So that's something that if we haven't talked about it, that certainly the people need to be informed and be aware of, because we're talking about a wave and losing our democracy. Whew. If we allow the Constitution to be changed by that way, we are in worse trouble than we are heading for right now, in my opinion.
Yeah,
except
you're
for
absolutely right.
The spaceship that's going to be,
and that's another 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 year movement. Like people have been planning for days that we're living in right now since before your parents were born. And that's why I say we got to get out the emotions and think strategically, because other forces they're playing the long game. And like you said, long game. They want to rewrite the whole Constitution the way they think it should be written. And if that's the case, and reparations, like I keep saying, the reparations means nothing compared to that. It means nothing, because you're never going to get back to that if they get this plan in place. And that's why I'm saying a lot of people don't know nothing about what Fanon just said. There's people listening right now like, they have no idea, but I do. Yeah, they're talking about changing the very nature of what it means to be an American and rewriting the entire U.S. Constitution. That's what the game is.
Yeah, that's not how they're presenting it, though. Like those who are arguing to open this up are trying to say, hey, this is going to just be around a narrow set of issues, maybe like term limits for elected officials. They say all the stuff that sounds good, but it's one of those things where whether it's in the church or whether it's in the country, once you open up that constitutional convention, once you open the convention, everything's fair game.
Absolutely.
And that's not how they're pitching it to get people on board in these states to vote for it, right? They're trying to couch it around a few select issues that most people would kind of agree with, like, term limits for our elected, that's good, because I'm tired of the Mitch McConnells, and that sounds good to me. But what they're not explaining is the fullness of what that means when you open that Pandora's box. And so, Fanon, thank you for bringing that up, because I'm aware of it, because occasionally, I get letters to the editor and stuff that are written in about people who are pushing for this and trying to get Ohio to sign on to. And Fanon is right. There are quite a few states, I think, like 26 or 27 states, something like that have already ratified this. That's right. To be able to do this. And so we need to be paying attention here in Ohio, because they're trying to get Ohio on board with that as well. And so, Nathan, we might have to take a show to really.
Yeah. And let me talk about it in Kentucky too. In Kentucky, it's the same way, but I do watch, and after November, the primary is in May, 6-7 months right after that, where we get out of New Year's Eve, they're going to start campaigning hard, and we're going to see what you're talking about in the Republican Party as well, with a MAGA candidate challenging Thomas Massie. And Thomas Massie is a heavy constitutionalist. He will fight against what you guys are talking. He'll fight tooth and nail. So the Republican Party, I mean, I'm telling you, there's some good people out here that are fighting the good fight as well on both sides. So I love that you brought up that fact, but the Republicans aren't going to sit down and just let MAGA take this thing over. I'll tell you that much.
Okay. I love it. Well, Fanon, people in the audience are saying they want you to come back on Friday. I'm not sure if you're available, but we do have a space for you if you are. We're doing a special show, and the door is always open. I'll keep you on the email chain whenever you have time. I appreciate you. It was good seeing you, brother. I wish you nothing but peace and blessings.
Great to be with you.
Tarris, appreciate you, bro. The Phil, who's not here, appreciate you. Kevin, of course, always. And we're planning to be back on Friday for a very special. I'll play the video again. Very special Halloween. So join us Friday. Join us Friday. Very special Halloween. Some very scary topics. We want to be very interactive with you, and we're gonna have a good time. 1:15 p.m. on Friday. Join us right here. All right, fellas. Thank you so much for being here. Have a great day. Thank you for all your time. Very, very busy people.